The ancient mystics whispered of it. Secret societies guarded knowledge of it. Religious texts allude to it in cryptic passages. For centuries, the 9-day journey of the soul after death remained hidden from those not initiated into the deepest spiritual mysteries. Until now. What I'm about to reveal was never meant for public consumption. The knowledge Helena Blavatsky uncovered about what happens in those critical 9 days between your final breath and divine judgment has been deliberately obscured by those who understand its power. They don't want you to know that your soul doesn't immediately face judgment, that for 9 precisely mapped days, your consciousness exists in a state of heightened awareness while spiritual forces gather to witness your life's true record. This isn't speculation or religious theory. These are the documented experiences of those who've glimpsed beyond the veil and returned. Mystics, near-death experiencers, and spiritual adepts who've mapped this territory with astonishing consistency across cultures and centuries. By the end of this journey, you'll discover the exact process your soul will undergo. You'll learn which spiritual entities gather around the newly departed consciousness. You'll understand why the ancient traditions prescribed specific prayers and rituals during these 9 critical days. Rituals modern society has forgotten to its peril. Most importantly, you'll gain something few living humans possess: the ability to prepare. Because unlike every other journey in your existence, this one allows for no improvisation. The 9-day passage happens exactly once, and your eternal destiny hangs in the balance. I must warn you, what follows will fundamentally transform your understanding of life, death, and what awaits beyond. Some viewers will find this knowledge disturbing. Others will recognize the profound liberation it offers. But no one who truly comprehends these 9 days remains unchanged by the revelation. The knowledge you're about to receive has been guarded by mystics and spiritual adepts for millennia. Helena Blavatsky risked everything to bring it to light. And now, for perhaps the first time, it's being presented in its complete form. The 9-day journey your soul will take before standing before ultimate judgment. If you're finding this revelation compelling, subscribe to the channel and leave your like, because it helps tremendously to continue bringing these hidden spiritual truths to light. Death, that most democratic of experiences, claims us all eventually. Yet what happens in the immediate aftermath remains one of humanity's most enduring mysteries. While religions offer glimpses and science remains largely silent, ancient wisdom traditions have mapped this territory with surprising precision. Helena Blavatsky, that intrepid spiritual explorer of the 19th century, delved into esoteric traditions spanning continents and millennia. Her findings echo what spiritual traditions have whispered for ages. The soul's journey doesn't end at death, it transforms. The first 9 days after physical death represent a crucial transition period. This isn't merely a poetic metaphor, but a structured spiritual process that prepares the soul for its ultimate reckoning. These 9 days exist in what mystics call the borderlands, neither fully in our material realm, nor yet in the higher spiritual dimensions where final judgment occurs. Consider the universal wisdom expressed in Ecclesiastes 12:7. The dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. This separation happens not in an instant, but through a deliberate process, a soul's final journey through the echoes of its earthly existence. Why 9 days specifically? This number appears repeatedly across spiritual traditions. In Orthodox Christianity, memorial prayers are offered on the 9th day after death. In Hindu traditions, specific rituals mark the 9th day post-death. The ancient Egyptians described a similar time frame for the soul's initial journey. These parallel traditions suggest not mere coincidence, but glimpses of a universal spiritual reality. During these 9 days, the soul experiences a gradual awakening to its new state. No longer bound by physical limitations, yet retaining the consciousness formed during life, the soul exists in a heightened state of awareness. Time flows differently here. Each day represents a phase of spiritual processing rather than 24 earthly hours. This journey isn't about punishment or reward, not yet. It's about truth, about seeing clearly, perhaps for the first time, the reality of one's life choices, thoughts and actions without the filters and justifications we maintain during physical existence. It is the soul's final opportunity to witness its own truth, before standing before divine judgment. The borderlands between death and judgment contain both comfort and challenge. For souls who lived in alignment with higher principles, angels indeed guide and comfort. For those who rejected spiritual truths, this clarity brings the first awareness of what has been lost. The fire mentioned in parables like that of the rich man and Lazarus in Luke 16. What makes these 9 days so crucial is that they represent the soul's first experience of true spiritual reality without the protection of physical existence. The material world, with all its distractions and temporary pleasures, no longer shields consciousness from eternal truths. In this threshold state, the soul begins to perceive dimensions of reality that were always present but remained largely invisible during physical life. The cosmic order, the spiritual laws that govern existence, the interconnectedness of all beings, these become evident as the soul sheds its material limitations. This journey of 9 days serves as preparation, a transitional phase allowing the soul to gradually adjust to spiritual reality before facing its final judgment. It is both mercy and necessity, giving the soul time to integrate the totality of its earthly experience before the ultimate reckoning. Which part of the United States are you watching from? Or from which country in the world is this content reaching you? Leave it in the comments, I really want to know. As the first day unfolds after physical death, something profound happens to the soul. This is the moment of first separation, when the threefold nature of human existence becomes evident. The body begins its return to earth, the spirit moves toward its divine source, and the soul, that unique consciousness shaped by a lifetime of experiences, enters a state of profound awareness. Imagine awakening from the deepest dream you've ever known. Except this awakening doesn't return you to physical reality, but elevates you beyond it. Colors become more vivid, sounds more clear, thoughts more lucid. The physical pain that may have accompanied death instantly vanishes, replaced by a lightness of being that many near-death experiences have attempted to describe, but words invariably fail to capture. This first awakening brings an unmistakable revelation. Something eternal has begun. The soul perceives with absolute clarity that physical death was not an ending, but a transition. Those who lived with spiritual awareness recognize this transition for what it is. Those who denied spiritual reality face their first confrontation with truths they avoided throughout life. During this initial phase, many souls report hovering near their physical remains, witnessing the grief of loved ones, attempting to communicate their continued existence. This is more than sentimental folklore. It represents the soul's gradual detachment process as connections to physical existence slowly dissolve. By the second and third days, the soul begins to understand it no longer belongs to the material world. Like a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis, it cannot return to its former state. Some souls resist this reality, attempting to cling to familiar surroundings and loved ones. Others, particularly those who lived with spiritual awareness, more readily accept this transition. Here we encounter the first great divergence in experience, what the Gospel of Luke alludes to when it speaks of Lazarus being carried by angels, while the rich man experiences the beginning of fire. This isn't yet heaven or hell, but the soul's first encounter with the spiritual consequences of its earthly choices. Those who lived with compassion, truth, and spiritual awareness find themselves drawn upward, guided by benevolent presences. Those who rejected these values begin to sense their separation from divine harmony. Yet even in this early stage, the soul retains emotional connections to earthly life. The mother still loves her children, the husband still cherishes his wife, the artist still appreciates beauty. What changes is the soul's ability to affect the material world. No more can it participate in physical existence, a realization that brings profound understanding of life's temporary nature and the permanence of spiritual reality. This represents the first great revelation of the afterlife journey. The material world is transient while consciousness endures. Everything the soul identified with during physical existence, wealth, status, physical appearance, possessions, reveals itself as temporary. Only love, wisdom, compassion, and spiritual truth remain relevant as the soul continues its journey. By the third day, emotional attachments begin transforming into spiritual understanding. The soul perceives the deeper purposes behind relationships and experiences. What seemed random or unfair during life reveals its hidden wisdom. Synchronicities that went unnoticed become obvious. The intricate tapestry of one's life path begins to unfold in ways impossible to perceive from within physical existence. This revelation often brings both peace and regret. Peace in understanding life's deeper purpose, regret for opportunities missed, and spiritual truths ignored. Yet this is merely the beginning of the 9-day journey, the first layer of veils lifted from spiritual perception. If this is making sense to you, comment your opinion below and share this video with others who might benefit from this understanding. By the 4th day after physical death, the soul enters a more profound phase of its journey. No longer distracted by attachment to its former physical existence, consciousness expands into what mystics have called the mirror of truth, a state where self-deception becomes impossible. During life, we maintain complex systems of justification for our actions and inactions. We craft narratives that paint us in favorable light, minimize our failings, and maximize our virtues. These protective mechanisms serve psychological purposes during earthly existence, but dissolve in the clear light of spiritual reality. The soul now begins experiencing its life from multiple perspectives simultaneously. Not only does it recall its own experiences, but it perceives the ripple effects of its actions on others. The kind word spoken to a stranger that changed their day, the harsh judgment that wounded someone deeply, the opportunities for compassion missed, the moments of genuine love freely given. Nothing remains hidden, not even from oneself. This is what the Apostle Paul referred to in Romans when he wrote of God judging the secrets of men's hearts. In the borderlands between physical death and final judgment, these secrets reveal themselves not as punishment, but as necessary truth. The soul cannot progress toward its ultimate destination without this complete self-knowledge. For souls who lived in alignment with spiritual principles, this revelation brings confirmation and deeper understanding of their intuitive choices. For those who lived in opposition to these principles, it brings the uncomfortable recognition of opportunities squandered and harm caused. Yet this mirror of truth reflects not just actions, but intentions. The wealthy philanthropist who gave to enhance his reputation sees the hollow nature of his charity. The impoverished widow who shared her last meal witnesses the profound spiritual impact of her genuine generosity. External appearances fall away, revealing the true spiritual content of each life choice. By the 5th and 6th days, this process intensifies. The soul witnesses not just individual actions, but patterns of being, the habits of thought that shaped reality, the fundamental orientation towards selfishness or service, the consistent choices that, accumulated over decades, formed character and directed life's course. During physical life, we rarely connect our daily choices to their long-term spiritual implications. In death's borderlands, these connections become unmistakable. The soul perceives how seemingly insignificant habits of thought and action shaped its spiritual development, either aligning with or diverging from its higher purpose. For those who lived without faith, not necessarily religious faith, but faith in something beyond material existence, this revelation brings the first true understanding of what has been lost. The opportunities for spiritual development that went unrecognized, the divine guidance ignored, the higher path not taken. This isn't punishment but clarity, perhaps the clearest perception the soul has ever experienced. Like removing tinted glasses after wearing them for decades, reality appears in true colors for perhaps the first time. Throughout this phase, the soul neither ascends to paradise nor descends to punishment. It simply witnesses truth, the complete, unfiltered truth of its earthly journey, with all illusions and self-deception stripped away. By the 5th day after physical death, the soul enters what ancient Egyptians symbolized as the weighing of the heart, a profound evaluation not just of actions, but of the intentions behind them. This isn't an external judgment yet, but an internal recognition of the soul's fundamental orientation throughout life. Here, in this moment of perfect clarity, the soul witnesses the contrast between its highest potential and its actual choices. Light versus shadow, truth versus illusion, freedom versus self-imposed limitation. This contrast isn't imposed by external forces, but emerges naturally as the soul perceives reality without physical filters. Every life contains this duality, moments of alignment with higher principles and moments of divergence from them. In physical existence, we often blur this distinction, justifying our lower choices while diminishing our higher achievements. In death's borderlands, this clarity becomes unavoidable. The emotional impact of this revelation varies dramatically based on the soul's earthly choices. Those who consistently aligned with compassion, truth, and spiritual awareness experience a profound confirmation, seeing how their intuitive choices reflected deeper wisdom than they consciously recognized. Those who repeatedly chose self-interest, deception, or harm to others face the uncomfortable recognition of opportunities squandered. Yet even here, divine mercy operates. This revelation isn't punishment, but necessary truth, the soul seeing itself clearly perhaps for the first time. Without this clarity, no genuine spiritual progress would be possible. Like a patient viewing an X-ray of their illness, the discomfort of diagnosis precedes any possibility of healing. What makes this phase particularly profound is that the soul now perceives not just what it did, but what it could have done, the crossroads where higher choices were available but passed by. The moments when divine guidance whispered but went unheeded. The opportunities for growth, service, and love that presented themselves throughout life. For souls who lived in conscious spiritual awareness, these revelations bring deep understanding of life's hidden purposes. Events that seemed random or cruel during physical existence reveal their role in spiritual development. Challenges that appeared overwhelming show themselves as opportunities for soul growth. The complex tapestry of seemingly disconnected life events reveals its perfect pattern. For those who lived without this awareness, the revelation brings recognition of divine presence that was always available, but unrecognized. The subtle guidance that operated throughout life. The spiritual support that remained constant, despite being ignored or rejected. This phase represents a profound turning point in the 9-day journey. The soul can no longer maintain any illusions about its true nature and choices. All becomes transparent, not to condemn, but to illuminate. Not to punish, but to reveal. By the end of this 5th day, the soul stands in perfect self-knowledge, seeing both its divine potential and how closely or distantly its earthly choices aligned with that potential. This isn't the final judgment, but the necessary preparation for it, as the soul gathers complete understanding of its own journey before standing before divine presence. If this content is opening your mind, subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next chapters of this journey. As the 6th day dawns in the soul's journey through death's borderlands, a profound deepening occurs. No longer perceiving just individual actions or general patterns, the soul now witnesses the hidden connections that linked seemingly unrelated aspects of its earthly existence. Like stepping back from a vast tapestry, the soul sees not just individual threads, but the complete design they form together. During physical life, we experience existence sequentially, moment following moment, year following year. In death's borderlands, the soul perceives life simultaneously as a unified whole. The conversation with a stranger that led to a career change, that introduced a life partner that created a family. These connections reveal themselves not as random coincidences, but as an intricate dance of purpose and meaning. This revelation exposes the hidden patterns of divine guidance that operated throughout life, often unrecognized during physical existence. The unexpected job loss that prevented being in a fatal accident. The painful breakup that eventually led to a more fulfilling relationship. The illness that forced a reassessment of priorities. What seemed like misfortune reveals its hidden protection. What appeared as random chance shows its deeper purpose. For souls who lived in spiritual awareness, this revelation confirms what they intuitively sensed during life, that existence operates by principles deeper than material cause and effect. For those who lived without this awareness, it brings the first true recognition of a cosmic order they may have denied or ignored. The 6th day brings particular focus to relationships. The soul witnesses how each significant connection served its development, offering specific lessons and growth opportunities. The difficult parent who fostered resilience, the challenging child who taught patience, the antagonistic colleague who provided opportunities to practice forgiveness. Even painful relationships reveal their purpose in the soul's development. More profoundly, The soul perceives how its own inner state created external reality, how thoughts, emotions, and beliefs shaped experience more fundamentally than external circumstances. The anxious mind that attracted confirming threats, the loving heart that drew nurturing relationships, the faithful spirit that experienced divine support. This recognition transcends simplistic notions of manifestation to reveal the genuine spiritual principles that connect consciousness to experience. This phase often brings the soul's first true understanding of freedom and responsibility. During physical life, we often blame circumstances, other people, or fate for our experiences. In death's borderlands, the soul recognizes its role in creating its life path, not in superficial details, but in the fundamental orientation that attracted specific experiences necessary for its development. By the end of the sixth day, a secret lies revealed, a profound truth hidden in plain sight throughout physical existence but rarely recognized, that the soul itself participated in creating its life circumstances to provide exactly the conditions needed for its growth. What seemed like fate reveals itself as collaboration between divine wisdom and the soul's own deeper knowing. This revelation leaves a question hanging in the cosmic silence. Did the soul fulfill the purpose of its incarnation? Did it learn the lessons its life was designed to teach? This question creates the ultimate cliffhanger, for its answer determines much about what follows in the final days of this journey. Like this video right now, it helps tremendously in spreading this message to those who need it. By the seventh day, the soul's journey through death's borderlands enters a more intensified phase. No longer merely witnessing its earthly existence, the soul now experiences the reverberations of its choices throughout the web of life. Like ripples spreading from a stone thrown into water, each action, word, and even thought created effects that continued long after the initial moment passed. This is where the metaphor becomes reality, where what goes around comes around reveals itself not as poetic justice, but as spiritual physics. The kindness offered to a stranger that changed their day, which influenced their interaction with another person, which altered yet another life in ways impossible to trace during physical existence. The cruel word that wounded deeply, creating a cascade of pain that spread outward through relationships and generations. The soul witnesses these ripple effects with perfect clarity, not as punishment, but as demonstration of its impact on the collective human experience. No one lives in isolation. Every choice affects the whole, in ways invisible to physical perception, but crystal clear in spiritual reality. For souls who lived with compassion and awareness, this revelation brings profound understanding of their positive influence, often far greater than they recognized during life. Small kindnesses they barely remembered reveal their lasting impact. Moments of integrity show their influence on others who witnessed them. Words of encouragement demonstrate how they changed the course of receptive lives. For those who lived selfishly or harmfully, this phase brings the uncomfortable recognition of damage caused, often unintentionally or unconsciously, the emotional wounds inflicted on children that shaped their development, the dishonesty that eroded trust in institutions, the environmental degradation that harmed countless beings. Again, this isn't punishment, but necessary truth, the soul witnessing its full impact on the world it inhabited. What makes this phase particularly powerful is its translation of abstract spiritual principles into concrete reality. During physical life, we may intellectually understand concepts like karma, reaping what we sow, or the golden rule. In death's borderlands, these principles reveal themselves not as religious concepts, but as fundamental laws of consciousness, as real as gravity. By the end of the seventh day, the soul has witnessed not just its individual journey, but its role in humanity's collective experience, how it either contributed to healing and elevation or to wounding and degradation. This recognition prepares the soul for what comes next, the beginning of the final accounting before divine presence. The eighth day brings a profound shift in the soul's journey through death's borderlands. No longer alone with its memories and recognitions, the soul perceives the gathering of spiritual witnesses, beings who observed its earthly journey and now prepare to testify to its true nature and choices. Ancient traditions describe this as the day when the books are opened, a metaphorical expression for the complete record of consciousness that now becomes accessible not just to the soul, but to the spiritual beings participating in its judgment. Everything hidden becomes known. Everything done in darkness comes to light. These witnesses aren't limited to conventional religious imagery of angels and demons, though these archetypes capture essential truth. The witnesses include every consciousness touched by the soul's journey, those it loved and those it wounded, those it helped and those it hindered, those it remembered and those it forgot. This gathering creates a moment of profound truth, unlike anything possible during physical existence. No longer can the soul maintain any pretense about its fundamental nature and choices. The entirety of its consciousness, every thought, word, and deed, becomes fully transparent to spiritual perception. For souls who lived in alignment with spiritual principles, this transparency brings profound peace, the relief of being fully known and still loved. For those who lived in opposition to these principles, it brings the discomfort of complete exposure without possibility of concealment or justification. Here emerges one of the most profound revelations of the afterlife journey. The divine judgment we face is not arbitrary punishment, but the natural consequence of having our true nature and choices fully revealed. The soul stands in the light of perfect truth, and that light itself constitutes judgment. During this phase, the witnesses gather but do not yet speak. They prepare their testimony for the final day when judgment will be pronounced. The soul, perceiving their presence, experiences a profound moment of reckoning, facing not just its own recognition of truth, but the imminent revelation of that truth to divine presence. This creates the ultimate spiritual question that each soul must eventually answer. Having witnessed the complete truth of your existence, who have you become? Not what did you achieve or acquire, but who are you at the core of your being? What fundamental quality of consciousness have you developed through your earthly choices? And you, what path would you choose if you could witness your life with such clarity? Comment your perspective below. I really want to read what you think. As the 9th day dawns in the soul's journey through death's borderlands, the witnesses gathered begin their testimony. This isn't a literal courtroom with speeches and arguments, but a revelation of truth so complete and perfect that it transcends earthly concepts of judgment. The witnesses, those spiritual presences that observed the soul's journey, don't speak so much as reveal. Their testimony consists of truth made manifest, reality unveiled without interpretation or distortion. Like light revealing what exists in a previously darkened room, their presence illuminates the soul's true nature, developed through its earthly choices. What makes this final testimony so profound is its perfect balance of justice and mercy. Nothing remains hidden, yet everything is understood in context. The difficulties faced during physical existence, the wounds carried from childhood, the limitations of knowledge and awareness, the genuine efforts made despite these challenges. The divine assistance either accepted or rejected. Ancient traditions describe angels testifying to every act of kindness, every moment of courage, every choice for truth over falsehood. They speak to intentions as much as actions, the genuine desire to grow, to love, to serve, even when imperfectly expressed. Other traditions describe darker presences testifying to opportunities squandered, to harm caused, to divine guidance rejected. Again, these aren't vindictive accusations, but necessary truths, aspects of reality the soul must acknowledge before moving forward in its journey. Throughout this testimony, the soul remains in profound silence. Having witnessed the complete truth of its existence during the previous 8 days, it can neither defend nor explain. The reality of its choices speaks for itself, revealing the fundamental quality of consciousness it developed throughout its earthly sojourn. This phase brings the culmination of the soul's self-recognition, the final integration of all it has witnessed about itself during this 9-day journey. Like pieces of a puzzle finally assembled, the complete picture of its spiritual development becomes unmistakably clear. By the end of this 9th day, all has been revealed. The witnesses have testified. The truth stands fully exposed. The soul, having journeyed through complete self-recognition, now stands at the threshold of divine judgment, not as arbitrary punishment or reward, but as the natural consequence of who it has become through its choices. In the silent moment before judgment is pronounced, the soul experiences perhaps its most profound recognition, that it has created its own destiny through the consciousness it developed during physical existence. Heaven and hell reveal themselves not primarily as locations, but as states of being the soul fashioned through its fundamental orientation toward or away from divine reality. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. As the 9-day journey concludes, the soul stands fully revealed before divine presence. The judge of all the earth described in ancient texts isn't a vengeful deity imposing arbitrary punishment, but the embodiment of perfect truth and love, offering each soul exactly what it has prepared itself to receive. The final judgment pronounced isn't punishment but recognition, the soul receiving the natural consequence of the consciousness it developed throughout its earthly journey. Those who cultivated love find themselves in the presence of love itself. Those who embrace truth enter deeper reality. Those who practice compassion receive perfect compassion. Conversely, souls who consistently rejected these qualities find themselves unable to bear their presence. The same divine light that brings joy to the loving heart creates unbearable exposure for those who chose darkness. The same truth that liberates the honest soul creates inescapable confrontation for those who built their existence on deception. This reveals the profound mercy operating even in judgment. No soul receives arbitrary punishment, but exactly what it has prepared itself to experience through its fundamental orientation. The divine judgment confirms, rather than contradicts, the soul's own deeper knowing developed during its 9-day journey through death's borderlands. For those who aligned with higher principles, this judgment brings liberation beyond imagination, entrance into dimensions of reality inaccessible during physical existence. For those who rejected these principles, it brings the beginning of a longer, more difficult path toward eventual harmony with divine reality. Yet even here, hope remains. Ancient wisdom traditions suggest that no soul is eternally condemned, that even the longest, most difficult path eventually leads toward reunion with divine source. The judgment pronounced determines not final destination, but the route required based on the soul's developed state. This understanding transforms how we approach physical existence. Each choice, each thought, each action develops consciousness that determines our experience not just in this life, but beyond it. We aren't preparing for an arbitrary judgment, but creating the very capacity through which we'll experience reality after death. If you've followed this journey to its conclusion, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share in the comments what impacted you most profoundly on this journey.